Hi students, let me continue with the concept of pressure. In the last class we discussed about pressure due to a liquid. Now let me discuss about pressure due to a gas. So pressure of a gas. All of you recall gas and liquid, they belong to fluids, the state of matter which can flow. So in the last class we have seen some fundamentals of pressure in a liquid, weight density into depth or height, whatever it may be. Now gas is also a fluid. So the basic definition of pressure does not change. Still it is force upon area. Still it is weight density into depth or height, whatever it may be. Okay. Now, in this topic, pressure of a gas, first let me tell you about atmospheric pressure. All of you know we are surrounded by huge amount of a gas mixture of gases. Nitrogen, oxygen, carbon dioxide, so on. So first let me tell you about the pressure we feel due to this particular mixture of a gas. It is something like, let me tell you an analogous example. Suppose if there is a person in the swimming pool, the deeper and deeper the person goes in the swimming pool, greater and greater pressure he feels because depth is increasing. Similarly, we are all at the bottom of this ocean of air, this atmospheric air. We are all on the earth's surface. So we are at the bottom of this ocean of air. So we all feel pressure. In fact, actually we are used to this. That is the reason why we don't feel it. But yes, definitely there is a pressure on our body. And that is the pressure due to the atmospheric air. So here the first point is, in the case of liquids, pressure is due to the depth of that liquid column. Similarly, the pressure due to air is also because of the depth of that air column. Okay. So here our first topic is atmospheric pressure. So if you take atmospheric air, the pressure exerted by that air is nothing but due to its weight. Weight density into depth or height. And you know one more point. On the earth's surface we have the maximum atmospheric pressure. And if you go above and above, away and away from the earth's surface, pressure decreases because the height decreases. Okay. So here, the pressure due to atmospheric air arises due to the depth of the air column. Yeah, you can say due to the weight of the air column above us, which is above us. Weight of the air column. Now here I will give you a small data. Suppose on the earth's surface you take 1 meter square area on the earth's surface at sea level. So suppose this is the area which I am talking about, and the area of this particular figure is equal to 1 meter square. Now, what is the weight of the air column above that? On that 1 meter square area, what is the weight of the air column present above that? Do you know what is the height of the atmospheric air? In fact, there is no meaning actually, because there is no clear-cut boundary beyond which there is no atmosphere. No, nothing like that. Atmospheric air becomes thinner and thinner as you go higher and higher from Earth's surface. But there is no end to the atmospheric air. At this atmospheric air never becomes zero. There is no area at no height the atmospheric air is zero. That means you at no height you can say that there is no air. So it becomes gradually thinner and thinner. But 99% of the atmospheric air is below 30 kilometer altitude. You know, altitude means height. 99% of the atmospheric air is below 30 kilometer height from the Earth's surface. So if you take that 30 kilometer height air column above this 1 meter square area, then what is the weight due to that air column? It is like this. Now this is the air column. Because this air column has no boundary, let me draw it like this. I told you already the air becomes thinner and thinner and it never becomes zero. So it is something like this. So what is the weight due to that air column present above that 1 meter square area? That is approximately 10 power 5 newtons. The weight of the air column, the weight of the air present in that column. And area of that particular air column is 1 meter square. So, and this is at sea level. I have taken this area at sea level. I already told you, if you go higher and higher from the Earth's surface, the pressure goes on decreasing. So I am talking about, I have given you this value at sea level. So at sea level, the pressure is equal to 10 power 5 Newton per meter square. This is the weight due to that air column, nothing but force, and area is 1 meter square. So 10 power 5 Newton per meter square. And 1 Newton per meter square is also called as Pascal. So at sea level, the pressure exerted by this air column, the huge amount of air, it is 30 kilometers height, in which 99% of the atmospheric air is included. So the pressure due to this air column is this much, 10 power 5 pascals. And 1 Pascal is equal to 1 Newton per meter square. Now this is one point regarding atmospheric air. So the pressure due to atmospheric air is quite analogous to pressure due to a liquid. It is as simple as that. A person is in the swimming pool, he feels the pressure due to water present above his body. Similarly, we are in a kind of swimming pool, we are in an ocean of air, we are at the bottom of that ocean. So there is pressure exerted by the atmospheric air on us. I told you already, we are quite used to that, so we do not actually feel it. But yes, but there is definitely this much amount of pressure on our head, on our body. Now the next point is, how do you measure it? How do you measure the atmospheric air? I already told you at sea level the atmospheric air, the pressure due to the atmospheric air is 10 power 5, approximately 10 power 5 Newton per meter square. There is another very familiar way of measuring atmospheric pressure, and you all must know this one. You might have studied this in your lower classes. The experimental setup, a simple experimental setup which uses mercury to measure the atmospheric air. It is called as barometer. And let me tell you the basics of this experimental technique. Instrument, the working of this instrument, a very simple instrument which is called as barometer. Now here what we do is, we take a dish, a tub which contains mercury. So it contains mercury, some amount of mercury, a certain amount of mercury. Now, we also take a tube like this, and it also contains mercury. Actually, we don't have any restriction regarding this dish, a tub. Its size may be of anything. The amount of mercury you should take can be anything. But there are some restrictions regarding this particular tube, especially one particular restriction. The length of this tube must be greater than 76 centimeters. So you take a tube whose length is greater than 76 centimeters, and very soon I will tell you why it should be so. But there is no restriction on its area of cross section, its diameter. The tube can be of any diameter. Okay, now what we do? In order to measure the atmospheric pressure, we take this tube and we keep this tube in this tub upside down, and the final experimental setup looks like this. This is the tub, and we have kept that tube upside down. As a result, some amount of mercury falls down, and there is a vacuum at that top, and this entire liquid is mercury. And of course, there is mercury in the this tub also. So finally, the experimental setup is like this. Now this is barometer. Now that instrument is ready to measure the atmospheric pressure. Okay. Now, it is found that at sea level, when you keep this tube upside down in a tub of mercury, this height, the height of this mercury column, this particular height, is found to be 76 centimeters. Of course, normal conditions, sea level. So 76 centimeters of that mercury column, height of the mercury column. And here we have vacuum. There may be a small amount of, very small amount of mercury vapor there. The vapor pressure of mercury is very, very small. Do you understand what is meant by vapor pressure? Let me use a synonym for that, volatility. Mercury is very less volatile at normal room temperature. So there is a very small amount of mercury vapor here that does not affect our experiments much. So we need not worry about that. We can take it almost vacuum. Okay. Now this height is 76 centimeters. Now that mercury is at rest. See, whenever you kept this tube in that tub, the mercury has fallen down, and at one particular point of time, at one particular place, it stops. And when it stops, the height is measured and we got it as 76 centimeters. Now it is in equilibrium. There is no movement. There is no falling off still. It has stopped. So the system is in equilibrium. So we can definitely say that the pressure that is exerted here on that surface by the atmosphere is equal to the pressure due to the pull of the mercury. At that surface, pressure from above is equal to pressure from below, obviously. Suppose if pressure from above over higher, then the atmospheric pressure, atmosphere will push that mercury surface. Then in that case, this mercury level becomes higher and higher, it goes up. It goes up and the height increases. No, but it is not happening. The mercury is at rest. On the other hand, suppose if the pressure due to mercury is greater than the pressure due to atmospheric air, then the mercury column will fall down, but it is not happening. The mercury column is steady at 76 centimeters. It stopped moving once it attains the height of 76 centimeters. So the pressure by the atmosphere and the pressure due to mercury becomes same. They are same now. So we say that atmospheric pressure at sea level is equivalent to pressure due to 76 centimeter mercury column. And at sea level, under normal conditions, whatever may be the atmospheric pressure, we call it as 1 atm. This is a unit of pressure, 1 atm. That is the pressure at sea level under normal conditions. So 1 atm, we can say it is equivalent to 76 centimeters of mercury. That means, I told you already, 99% of the atmospheric air is present within the 30 kilometer altitude. So on a particular surface area, unit surface area, 1 meter square, 1 centimeter square, that is up to you. 1 unit surface area. If you see the weight of that entire air column, that is equal to the weight of 76 centimeters of the mercury column on the same surface area. Maybe per meter square, maybe per centimeter square. Suppose if you take 1 centimeter square area on the earth surface. Now what is the weight due to air column on that area? That is equal to the weight due to 76 centimeters of mercury column on the same surface area, 1 centimeter square, equivalent. So atmospheric pressure at sea level is equal to the pressure due to 76 centimeters of mercury, and that is almost equal to 1 bar. So now we can relate this. 10 power 5 Newton per meter square, this I already told you. Per meter square, if you see, then the weight of the air column is 10 power 5 Newton at sea level. That is equal to 1 atm, and that is equal to 76 centimeters of Hg, and that is approximately equal to 1 bar. Now this is the pressure due to atmospheric air. Now here see, I told you that length of the tube must be greater than 76 centimeters. So what if it is less than 76 centimeters? What is the problem? Obviously, if you take the length of this tube less than 76 centimeters, then suppose if the mercury is up to this level, up to the wall of that inverted tube. Now how do you know that? Whether atmospheric pressure is very high, there is no gap here, because mercury is touching that wall of that tube. So how do you know that whether it is due to atmospheric pressure or it is due to the there is no gap present there, so mercury cannot move any further. Atmosphere is pressing, but mercury cannot move any further because it is already touching the wall of that test tube. So if you keep a gap, then only you give chance for the mercury to move up, move down, and when the mercury is at equilibrium, then you measure the pressure. And if you want to give the mercury a chance to move the way it wants, then only you can measure you can measure atmospheric pressure exactly. So that is the reason the length of the tube must be greater than 76 centimeters if you want to measure the pressure at sea level, of course. Now second one, why mercury? You could have taken any other liquid. Mercury is poisonous, mercury is costly, we have water, the cheapest liquid available. So what if you take water? Yeah, you can definitely take water, but in that case you have to take the height of the water column in such a way that the weight of that water column is equal to the weight due to atmospheric air or the weight due to 76 centimeters height of the mercury. But water is very less dense. Density of mercury is 13.6 gram per centimeter cube, but the density of water is 1 gram per centimeter cube. That means if you want to use water in a barometer, you can use it, but be ready to take 13.6 into 76 centimeters height tube. Minimum, it is minimum. I am repeating, 13.6, which is the density ratio, density of mercury upon density of water. So 13.6 into 76 centimeters height tube you have to take, and that is not practical actually. So that is the reason, despite the fact that mercury is poisonous, despite the fact that mercury is costly, we still prefer mercury. And one more advantage for mercury, I told you already, mercury is one of the least volatile liquids. And suppose if you take water, then water evaporates. Water is more volatile than mercury. So then what happens here, there is a building up of water vapor gradually, and it exerts its own pressure. So there will be error in the atmospheric pressure measurement. So it is far better, mercury is far better than water in many respects. So that is why we prefer mercury. So this is the working of barometer. Now let me move on to the pressure due to a gas, a small sample of gas. We have just discussed about pressure due to huge sample of gas, that is atmospheric air, and how do you measure it, how the pressure arises and all that. Now let us move on to the pressure of a small sample of gas. Suppose in 1 liter vessel there is a gas or a mixture of gases. So why pressure of that gas arises, how it arises, and how do you measure it? Okay. So let me come to the pressure of a gas. Now do you have any idea where from the pressure comes? Suppose if you fill a cycle tube or the tube of an automobile, the pressure increases, you fill the air into that, the pressure increases. So you all know actually about, you have so many times used this word pressure, pressure of a gas, and you know something about that. And do you know how this pressure arises? What is the reason behind the pressure of air? Let me tell you very briefly about that. We can say that pressure of a gas arises due to collisions of the molecules on the walls of the container. Okay, there are actually two types of collisions in a gas: collisions among the molecules. In our first class we have seen, in a gas the particles move randomly. So while moving randomly they collide with each other. So collisions among the molecules. Now second one is collisions with the walls of the container. Collisions with walls of the container. Now the pressure arises due to these collisions. Pressure does not arise due to collisions among themselves. When a molecule or when an atom collide with the wall of the container, suppose this is the wall of the container, let us say. So many molecules are coming and they collide with the wall of the container. Then they bounce back. Again they come and again they collide. They transfer momentum because they have mass, they have velocity. So when they collide with the wall of the container, they bounce back and they transfer some momentum. And you know, rate of change of momentum is nothing but force, and force per unit area is pressure. So if you average this entire force on a particular unit surface area, that is what is pressure. So pressure is due to collisions of the molecules with the walls of the container. Pressure does not arise due to collisions among themselves, among the molecules. We will study about this in more detail actually in our future topic, that is kinetic theory of gases, in this chapter only. But this is, I am giving you some brief explanation of pressure of a gas. Okay. So pressure of a gas is due to collisions with the walls of the container. Okay. Now, how do you measure this pressure? Similar to barometer, which is used to measure atmospheric pressure, we have another instrument called as manometer, with which we can measure the pressure of a gas, a small sample of gas. And before I move on to that manometer, working of the manometer, let me tell you one small experiment. Suppose we have a tube like this, and that tube contains, that vessel contains some liquid. The liquid can be anything. It can be mercury, it can be even water. So a tub of water you can say. Now, suppose we want to measure the pressure at one particular place in that liquid. Suppose, let us say, we want pressure at this particular place. So let me write it as P. So I want the pressure there. That means suppose if it is a swimming pool and at that place we are there, and how much pressure do we feel? So what is the pressure at that particular depth? Okay. Now here there are two pressures which are exacting. Actually there are two different pressures. When you take sum of them, you will get the pressure at that point. Okay, that is pressure, one pressure, that is the pressure due to atmospheric air. This vessel is open vessel, and as we already discussed, we are on the surface of the earth, we feel pressure due to atmospheric air. And similarly, this vessel is also at the earth's surface, so it also feels, the liquid present in that also feels the atmospheric pressure. The atmospheric air is pushing it. Okay. Now the pressure is, let me call it as P naught. So P naught is the pressure due to atmospheric air. So atmospheric pressure. And let us say this particular height is H. You can say it as H, height or depth, whatever it may be. If you see from here to here, you call it as height. But if you see from here to here, you call it as depth. It does not matter, however you call it as. Okay. Suppose that is H. That means at a depth of H from the surface, we want to measure the pressure. And you just recall, all of you, how do you measure, how do you calculate pressure due to a liquid? It is weight density into height, weight density into depth. So now the pressure at that point is equal to P is equal to P naught plus weight density into height. Can I write down weight density as mass density, which is generally represented by rho, Greek letter rho, that is not P, that is rho, into G. Rho is the mass density. Let me write down here. It is mass density, that is mass upon volume. But we want here weight density. So mass into G, m into g, that is nothing but weight. So rho into g becomes weight density into h. Now you see this expression. So pressure at a depth of h is equal to atmospheric pressure, whatever it may be, 180 m, 10 power 5 newtons per meter square, whatever it may be, plus the pressure due to that liquid column. Pressure due to that liquid column. So it is weight density into height. Okay, now if you come to the instrument which is used to measure the pressure of a gas sample. A small gas sample is there. Now how do you measure the pressure of that particular sample? Okay. Now the similar to barometer, the manometer experimental setup is also very simple. Now let us see. Suppose we have a bulb like this, a tube, U shape, and here a bulb, and this bulb contains a gas and this tube contains mercury. You know, all of you, to measure the pressure we can use any liquid, but mercury has its own advantages, so let us use mercury. Now the situation is like this. Now this is manometer. Now here you see here carefully the height of the mercury here and here, it is exactly same. The height of the mercury levels is exactly same. What does it mean? The pressure that is exerted here on the surface of the mercury, that is nothing but atmospheric pressure. Let us say that is P naught. And the pressure exerted on this surface of the mercury, that is nothing but pressure of the gas. So when pressure of the gas is equal to atmospheric pressure, that means on this side how much is pressure is being exerted, on that side also same amount of pressure is exerted. So the mercury column heights will be same. So in this case P is equal to P naught, and this instrument is called as manometer. This is how we measure the pressure of a gas sample. Now let me take another case, the same setup, U tube, U-shaped tube which contains mercury, and here we have a bulb, and this bulb contains a gas. Now the mercury levels are like this. Now this is the level on that side, and this is the level in this side. Now this is mercury. Now see. Now just all of you guess, pressure due to gas is higher or pressure due to atmospheric air? If the mercury column heights are like this. Actually its height is lesser and its height is greater. So obviously the gas is exerting more pressure than the pressure exerted by the atmospheric air. And we can form an expression like this. Now suppose if you take this height, obviously on both arms, inner arm, outer arm, we call it as arms, A, R, M. So here and here the pressures are same at that level because the mercury is at equilibrium, it is not moving. So obviously at that level pressure is same. Now suppose this is H, the height of that mercury column is H. So now what is the total pressure this side? That is P naught. Of course it is open to atmosphere. So atmosphere pressure is atmosphere is exerting its pressure on that surface. So P naught plus rho Z H. That is the pressure due to that mercury column. And you see. And that is equal to, and what is the pressure at this surface? That is nothing but the pressure of the gas. So P, and this is the pressure of the gas. P naught is the pressure of the atmosphere, atmospheric pressure. Let me write down here. P naught is atmospheric pressure. And here rho G H all are positive. So P gas is greater than P naught. Now another case we can see where atmospheric pressure is greater than the pressure exerted by the gas. Now in that case, the mercury levels will be like this. Now this mercury level is here and this is here. Now this is mercury. And this height is H. And here there is a gas. Now the height of the mercury column in the inner arm is greater and outer arm is lesser. That means atmospheric pressure is exerting more pressure than the pressure exerted by the gas. So at this level pressure is same, and what is the pressure at this particular level? That is pressure of the gas plus pressure due to that mercury column whose height is H, and that is equal to P naught. And on this side only atmospheric pressure is only atmosphere is exerting its pressure, nothing else is there. So again rho G H all are positive. So P gas is actually less than P naught. Now this is actually how manometer works. P gas equal to atmospheric pressure, mercury levels are same. P gas greater than atmospheric pressure, so the height of the mercury column in the inner arm is lesser because it is pushing harder, because its pressure is greater. And in the third case, the mercury height in the outer arm is lesser because the atmosphere is pushing harder now than the gas present in the sample. Okay, so this is all about pressure due to gas, and all of you please remember I told you already why a gas exerts pressure, what does it mean, and about that topic we will study in very detail in this chapter only, but later on. But for the time being, you please remember pressure due to gas is due to collisions with the walls of the container. They are colliding, they are banging on the wall, they are bouncing back, again coming, again colliding, and pressure arises due to those collisions. They transfer the momentum, rate of change of momentum is called as force, and force per unit area is called as pressure, and that is the pressure of the gas. And the pressure, the gas pressure can be measured by this experimental setup, a simple experimental setup like barometer, which is called as manometer. Now let me move on to our next topic, that is gas laws. The laws that govern, the laws that will tell you about the behavior of the gas. So this is the topic, gas laws. Okay, actually we have some gas laws like Boyle's law, Charles law, Avogadro's law, etc. Actually these are all laws are experimental. They are called as empirical laws. Empirical means experimental. Boyle did some experiments. He found the relation between pressure and volume at constant temperature and number of moles. So he formulated the law from those experimental results. Similarly, Charles did experiments. He formulated the relation between temperature and volume at constant pressure and amount of gas. Then he formulated the law. Similarly, Avogadro gave us the relation between volume and number of moles at constant pressure and temperature. So actually these gas laws relate any two of the four properties of the gas. In our first class we have discussed There are four parameters or properties by which a gas can be described. One is pressure, second one is volume, third one is moles, fourth one is temperature. So these gas laws, Boyle's law, Charles' law, Avogadro's law, so on, they relate any two of these properties by keeping the other two constant. Okay, this is the first thing. And the second thing is, here briefly let me differentiate ideal gas from real gas. Actually, this gaseous state chapter is divided into two halves almost. First we study about ideal gases, then we study about real gases. So what is the difference between ideal gas and real gas? Okay, ideal gas obeys all gas laws under all conditions. So a gas which obeys all the gas laws under all conditions, high temperature, high pressure, low temperature, low pressure, whatever may be the condition, the ideal gas obeys the gas laws. So it follows the gas laws. Whatever is predicted by these gas laws, it is obeyed by the ideal gas under all conditions. And real gases obey gas laws at high temperature and low pressure. So only under some conditions real gases obey the gas laws, Boyle's law, Charles' law, etc. And at other conditions they deviate from the gas laws. They do not obey. Whatever Boyle says, real gas does not obey that. Real gas obeys that only under some conditions. So that is what is real gas. One additional point. In ideal gas, there are no interactions between the molecules. No attraction, no repulsion. Attraction and repulsion together are called as interactions. So in an ideal gas, one molecule does not interact with another molecule. They move independently of each other. And one more point in ideal gas is the particles, atoms, molecules, so on. Particles do not have any volume, do not occupy any volume. The volume of the ideal gas particle is zero. The volume of the ideal gas atom, ideal gas molecule is zero. So volume zero and no attractions, no repulsions. Do you think such a gas exists? No way. Ideal gas exists only on paper. All gases present on this earth, they are real gases. But actually, why we spend so much of time on a particular gas which does not exist? Actually, information regarding ideal gas is very much helpful to understand the behavior of the real gas. And ideal gas behavior is simple. So it is first step for all of us to study about an ideal gas, although it does not exist. And the knowledge about ideal gas is necessary to understand the behavior of the real gas. So that is the reason why we will spend almost half of the time in this chapter on ideal gases. Okay. And if you come to real gases, interactions are present. Molecules attract each other and under some conditions they even repel each other. Interactions include both of them actually, attractions as well as repulsions. And the particles have definite volume. Okay. Now that is the basic distinction between ideal gas and real gas. And I told you already, once we complete the discussion about ideal gas, we will come to the real gas. And in that particular topic, we will discuss why real gases do not obey these gas laws under all conditions. So for the time being, let us concentrate on the ideal gas. Let us learn everything about the ideal gas. I told you already that knowledge is very much necessary to understand the behavior of real gas. Okay. Now in these gas laws, suppose if you come to the first law, that is Boyle's law. Actually, Boyle's law can be guessed by anybody who has common sense. It relates volume and pressure. And if you remember in our first class, we discussed that gases are highly compressible. When you exert pressure on a gas, its volume decreases because intermolecular space is too much in a gas. There is so much scope for the gas to contract because hardly 1 or 2% of the gas is occupied by the molecules. The rest of the space is vacant. Now, Boyle's law says that pressure of a gas is inversely proportional to its volume at constant temperature and number of moles. So you can say at a given temperature, for a fixed amount of gas, its pressure is inversely proportional to the volume. So if you double the volume, the pressure becomes half. If you increase the volume by 10 times, the pressure will decrease by 10 times. It becomes 1 by 10. So inversely proportional to volume. Actually here, we all know even before studying the Boyle's law that when you increase the pressure, volume decreases because gases are compressible. That we already know. But Boyle relates pressure and volume quantitatively. That means if you double the pressure, how many times the volume decreases? Volume decreases, that everybody knows. But if you double the pressure, how many times volume decreases? So Boyle's law says that it is decreased to half of its original value. So inversely proportional to volume. So you can write down this as by introducing a proportionality constant. You can write down P is equal to K by V and you can write down PV is equal to K. Now this is Boyle's law. Now for example, if you want to draw a graph between pressure which is on the y-axis and volume which is on the x-axis. So how will this plot look like? Okay. I will give you two possibilities. One is this, and you see volume is very high here when compared to here and pressure is very less. Volume is very less here and pressure is very high. So with increase in pressure, volume is decreasing. So the graph can be like this. Now the graph can also be like this. So what is the problem with this graph? Straight line. So here pressure, here volume. So which graph exactly explains the behavior of the gas? The relation between pressure and volume. In both cases with increase in pressure, volume is decreasing. You see here the pressure is very high and volume is very less than here. Okay. Now you all know in your lower classes in maths you have already studied. Actually it is a straight line. So its equation will be in the form y is equal to mx plus c. But is it in the form of that expression? Y is equal to mx plus c? No. So for such a function, it is actually y is equal to some constant k upon x. That is the mathematical function. So x into y is equal to constant. Then the graph between y and x, how does it look like? It looks like this, a rectangular hyperbola. So y is equal to some constant k upon x, and y into x is equal to k, and it is a rectangular hyperbola. And because the temperature is constant, Boyle's law is valid only when these two are constant. So we have plotted pressure against volume at constant temperature, and as a result such curve is called as isothermal. Isothermal. Iso means same. Thermal means something related to temperature. So it is called as isotherm. So this graph between pressure and volume is wrong mathematically, and this is correct. Now suppose if you want to draw a graph between pressure and 1 by V, on the x-axis let me take 1 by V, not V. Then how does that graph look like? You see, P is equal to K upon V. P is equal to some constant K into 1 by V. Now yes, this is in the form of y is equal to mx plus c, where c is equal to 0, y is equal to p, and x is equal to 1 upon v. So because c is equal to 0 and the slope is positive, here x is 1 upon v. So here you will get a curve like this, and the slope is equal to k. So PV curve is a rectangular hyperbola. It is called as isotherm. P versus 1 by V curve is a straight line passing through origin, that intercept is 0. Now this is Boyle's law. Relation between pressure and volume at constant moles, that means a fixed amount of gas, and constant temperature. Now ideal gas obeys this law under all conditions, and real gas obeys this law under only particular conditions. Temperature should be very high, pressure should be very low, then the real gas also obeys this particular law.